As the highly contagious Delta variant continues to surge, expanded federal unemployment benefits due to COVID-19, they are set to expire next week. While the White House is leaving it up to governors to decide whether or not to extend the benefits, they're willing to help states that do.
Are differing needs in different states, and governors are making different decisions. What we're trying to do, and what we announced about 2 weeks ago, but obviously there was a lot of news going on, is our effort to put new tools in place to help states that choose to further extend pandemic unemployment benefits.
Joining me now, Walser Wealth Management President Rebecca Walser. Rebecca, good to see you.
Thank you for having me, Lauren.
So in half the country that pulled the extra benefits, did they see those workers go back to work?
Well, it's a mixed bag. We have people in the South that definitely saw numbers go back to work when they rolled off of the government stimulus. But then you have Pennsylvania where, you have the same numbers, whether they have the stimulus or they don't. So I can't say, Lauren, in general, that we have a clear, decisive, information. Yes, if you pull back the stimulus at the federal level, people will go back to work. But I can also say that having 10 million job openings while you're stimulating at $300 bump up federally a week seems sort of oxymoronic to me. I mean, there's something there that's not necessarily working the way it should.
Yeah, I think the culture has changed and people just don't want to work. And you know what? They don't want to pay their rent either, because the aid keeps coming. At the 11th hour yesterday here in New York, Governor Kathy Hochul extended the state's eviction moratorium to January 15th. She said, we're not going to abandon our neighbors in need. But is that fair for landlords, often small business owners who haven't seen rent in a year and a half?
I'm actually mad at the landlords of America. I got to be honest, Lauren, because this is such an unconstitutional grab of authority over private property, and people need to call it out as it is. Nobody is saying that there cannot be a very tailored in the law. When you have something that goes against the Constitution, you have to narrowly tailor the circumstances. It has to meet the highest level of legal standard. I'm a lawyer. This is what we talk about. It has to meet the highest level of legal review and standard. And so it is not possible to have a pandemic that lasts over a year's worth of time where the Supreme Court isn't going to look at that and say, this is a blatant takeaway of property rights, private property rights. What we're doing, think about it. These governors and their individual capacity are saying they have the authority to take away what you do with your private property. And the Supreme Court might tolerate that in a very narrow, tailored circumstance that is time sensitive. But it is not going to be a blanket authority that is open indefinitely as long as we have a pandemic or a variant. That is totally unconstitutional. It eliminates and just completely takes away the entire thought of private property. It is a communist socialist tenet, and it has to be challenged. And where are the landlords of America that are saying enough is enough, take this to court? It would go all the way to the Supreme Court. And I'm telling you, we get a very narrow, tailored restriction on what they could possibly do, because this is carte blanche and it's not acceptable.
Well, yeah, the Supreme Court did rule on this, but you have the states that have their own rules too. Last one for you, Rebecca. It's back to school, but many kids are actually back home again, even though school just started, because states, parents, school districts, they're at odds over mask mandates and vaccine mandates. Where do you come in on this? I'm coming in on it with children in school, is that I want them to be in school, and if that means they have to wear a mask, I'm okay with it. I don't want them home. Yeah. It's better for them to be in school. Where do you stand?
I say, Lauren, that is a very common parental reaction, because when you say either you're going to be at home, which we know is a much disadvantaged learning environment, versus in person, we as parents want our kids to be in person, and we will take things that we consider an inconvenience. However, it does concern me that we are ascribing apathy, or we're ascribing tolerance of this kind of intrusion. And I think that we can maybe get through the fall, but I'm starting to look at the spring and summer and say, look, we can't continue this mask mandate indefinitely. We have to get to a normalized level of either risk or no masks, because we can't have kids all day long. There's some studies that have shown that the masks themselves can cause some issues. But I will say about vaccine mandates, Lauren, just very quickly, I know that Dr. Fauci is out there saying, oh, parents shouldn't have an issue with this. It's like just adding another shot to the roster that they have to get. But this is very deceptive, because these are new technology vaccines, and they're not even vaccines in the nature of vaccines when you use a chicken, egg, and a protein protein and all that. These are mRNA. These are changes to our DNA that have never been for human. This has never happened before in the history of humankind. So we need some longitudinal data before we add that as an absolute requirement to our children. We need some fertility testing, long-term done, and we need some long-term studies. So if adults want to take undergo these types of therapies with the informed consent that they must give, that's fine. But to say that this is ready for our children as a mandated to attend school, I think you're going to have a lot of parents that stand up and say, no, not going to happen.
We have seen that. Rebecca, thank you for sounding off with us today. We do appreciate it.
Thank you, Lauren.
And Kathy Wood.